Hi there, I've got another potential option for you with regard to the in-running scalping method that I introduced to you and been discussing in recent weeks. Just to recap, you remember the idea of taking a lay stake as a liability. This is the amount of money that you're prepared to lose in a particular race, and then we lay down this column here in grid mode, looking for whatever offset we decide, in this particular case 1 tick, with a view to trading out run about halfway through a race. I've got another option available to you which you might on the face of it think is a bit bizarre, but it's worthwhile doing this video to let you see if it's an option that you'd prefer. In this particular one, we're still going to look at an overall liability of £60, but what we're going to do is spread it across the 3 available prices in the grid. So in essence, rather than just putting in lays down this column, we're going to put lays all the way around here. So we're going to split this up into 3. So we'll do our lay stakes are going to have a liability of just £20 in this case. So in essence, what we're going to do is have a lay bet here, here and here, looking for 1 tick. Okay, so, which will return, assuming all are successful, virtually the same as a lay bet sitting here for a liability of £60, looking for 1 tick. There'll be a slight variation simply because of the spread of odds, but it is going to be very small. Now the idea here is, excuse me, as you're familiar, we want the market to come down, grab our money, go back up and trade out. But when you're doing it all the way down here in the first scenario that I showed you in previous videos, you quite often find that the market doesn't come down here and grab our money. So our lay bet just disappears due to the fill or kill. And of course what happens there is we want our money to be matched. It's not until our money gets matched that we have the opportunity of actually making a profit. So the idea here is to say, well, let's tempt the market in grabbing this and giving us a tick, grabbing this and giving us a tick, and grabbing that and giving us a tick. We still run the same risk of the market sweeping through and taking all 3 lays and leaving us in a position where it needs to recover a significant number of ticks for us to trade out. But that's exactly the same if all our money was placed on the 1 lay here. If the market sweeps through it, we're in the same boat, as it were. But there was one thing I didn't anticipate when I first started playing with this, and hopefully it'll come up here. So that's why I'm in simulation mode again, because ultimately I want to find a situation where I'm in difficulty. Now this race looks as if it's about to start. Let me just bring up the video. Okay, so the idea is essentially exactly the same as you've seen before, except we're going to go all the way down here rather than down here, and hopefully we'll see the differences, if there is indeed any. What came out of my experimentation was something that I didn't actually appreciate until I actually saw it, and it's blatantly obvious once you see it, and that is the overall liability on any one runner is quite often a lot less than your max liability, because it's getting matched in a number of different places. So this is a 1 mile race, so we'll be in here for approximately 1 minute. And you'll see there's a heck of a lot more bets going into the market. Some are getting matched, some aren't. So we've only got Dan Silly Dutch here, so we can carry on ignoring her. The same stuff all the way down. It doesn't have to exercise your index finger as you're clicking along. So you see the same sort of thing. Wait till all the lays have disappeared from the unmatched bet section, and then carry on. So we're nearly a minute out. By the time all these lays have gone, we'll be a minute into the race, so that's time to stop trading. Now, again, we have the option of trading out when we think it's convenient, but I'm going to let this run because what I want to try and see is how things go with regard to the liabilities here. Now in this particular case, Pigeon Pie is starting to get nibbled at, and she's going to get traded out fairly shortly. She is there. She's pushing quite hard, so we can trade out at any time here. But what I hope you're noticing is that the overall liability, because the lays have been split up, the liabilities that are available in the market on any particular runner are a lot less, because your stakes have been placed at different odds which get matched more readily. So you have a situation where having a liability of your whole stake of £60 is lessened, which means that you, at the very worst case scenario, you can trade out for less of a loss if you're in that situation. That's not to say, as I mentioned earlier, that if the market sweeps away through you and takes all three bets on a particular runner and doesn't come back, you're still going to have your full liability of £60. But that situation happens a lot less. And also that £60 liability will have been reduced because more of these little bets will have been taken on other runners. And so that tends to lower the liability as well. It's worthwhile doing that on another race. Let me just see what that was, a 1 mile race. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah, it's worthwhile doing this 2.5 mile race because it gives us much greater scope for playing around with. Let me just pause this video for the moment until this race comes along. There's another 6 minutes to go. But hopefully you're getting an idea of the potential options that you have available to you by splitting your stake up. And if you have software that can increase the number of columns you have available on your grid, Fairbot doesn't do that. It doesn't have this option, but I think it's Grus that has that option, and I think possibly is it Evolution? I think it might have, and possibly the Geek's Toy. Those are applications I don't use, so I'm just guessing here, but I seem to remember seeing that in screenshots and so on. So if you've got more options, more columns, you can expand that possibility by doing 5. That's a heck of a lot of clicking, mind you, but yeah, it's one of these things you can try and see. So I'll pause the video, we'll come back for the next race, give you another example, and then I'll leave you to it to try it out for yourself and see how you get on. Back shortly. Okay, back again. So just a quick look at this race. We'll see how we get on, but I'm sure it's fairly obvious now. So we're going to do much the same as we've been doing before, but we do it on these 3 columns. We'll ignore this chap here. Same principle, 2 mile 5 furlongs, so that's going to be approximately 2.5 minutes is when we'll stop trading. As I mentioned to you in the main video I did last week, I tend to let my position carry another minute or so if I have an open position on one runner, because there's still getting out after 2.5 minutes, there's still a fair distance to go, so anything can happen. So it's worthwhile giving that runner a chance, keeping an eye on the race, keeping an eye on the market, and bailing out if I don't think it's going to work for me. But it's worthwhile trying to give them a chance to trade out at your back price. So we're just waiting for this race to start. Shouldn't be long now, just lining up, and we'll do the same sort of thing, but covering 3 bets per horse at a third of our total liability. As ever, if you've got any questions, just post a comment on the YouTube channel or pop across to the blog. Leave a comment in one of the posts there. Quite happy to respond to any questions that you might have. Or of course you can follow me on Twitter. Okay, off and running. So as before, as you've seen loads of times by now, we'll select each of these runners and we'll start getting bets taken. Okay, so we've just got the one here. Everything else has either been filled and killed or traded out. Keep on doing this for a couple of minutes and see how we get on. There, you'll see on times a wasting that the market has swept through and taken all three of our bets. So at the moment our overall liability is approaching our maximum of £60 in this particular example. Okay, everything is going again, so in we go once more. Now the price on times a wasting, he's running quite strongly in the front, so we really need to pay attention to what he's doing a minute into the race, because if he stays in the front like that for a significant portion of the race, his price isn't going to come up very much. So we may have to bail early. But that still doesn't prevent us from nibbling away on the other runners. He is looking strong. So we're 2 minutes in. Excuse me, sorry. 2 minutes in. We've got time for another set of bets to put in, and then we need to think about, oh, we've got another couple in actually. We need to think about getting out. Okay, so I think we need to stop there. We've got open positions on time of wasting and big casino. I think I inadvertently put in extra bets on big casino there. Yes. So I shouldn't have gone into big casino. So I'm actually in a worse position than I should have been. So that's big casino. So that's the two front runners in the market, and they're up front, and they're both looking really strong. So 3 minutes into the race, we really need to think about getting out. And trading out for a £10 loss in this particular case. But this chap here, the yellow one, who's he? Well, that's handy. Which number is he? Can't tell who that is. I think that's Big Casino. Was it? Yeah, it's Big Casino. Sorry, I was thinking that was Big Casino. So Wake Your Dreams is actually in second place. So I'm going to let this one, as I said earlier on, we probably would have traded out for a £10 loss. But I just want to let it run to let you see. You'll see that Big Casino has drifted back out again, being matched. So it's just times are wasting, and these bets here have been in since nearly the beginning. But you can see, because there's three runners that are actually running strong, time of wasting has been at the front the whole of the race, but the two behind are running very well. They're still on the bridle, they're right on his tail. It's worthwhile letting it go for a bit. Give times a wasting a chance to trade out. You can see we can trade out for a very small loss. Big Casino's coming to odds on now. We've got, well, there's times a wasting gone. Trade out of Big Casino. Make sure we square up. And there we go. Another profitable trade, and we're 4 minutes in. We're not even on the home straight yet, and we've greened up. So that's an example of two things. One, you still have a situation where, even though we've got 3 bets in the market for any one particular horse, you still have the situation where it's possible for all of those 3 bets to be taken and its price carries on shortening. That's no different from having the one bet, these odds, and the market sweeps through it. Also, hopefully you've seen that you can get the situation, because we have 3 separate bets at slightly different odds, the market can nibble away at those little bets, and all these little bets accumulate. So you actually end up getting more bets matched than you would if you were just placing all your bets here. So that's another consideration that you should think about. But also, that particular race demonstrated, as a couple did in the previous video, that although you can stop getting involved in the market halfway through, it's often worthwhile just letting the race develop, particularly on the longer races where there's still a fair distance to go, and give any remaining liability a chance to be cleared before you really need to think. So it's important that you pay attention to the race. If we were just looking at the market, I would have bailed out long ago. But because the race was running well and the leader, times are wasting, had 2 horses on his tail who were both still on the bit, it was worthwhile hanging on to let us see if he drifted up a bit to match his get out point. And that's the case. That's how it proved to be. Let's have a quick look at the next race. The next race, I think Chepstow's actually got a delay on it. I'm looking for a sprint. Right, just because we've done a medium race, a long race, let's do a sprint. We'll go to this race. I'll pause the video because it's not starting for 16 minutes, and I'll come back and we'll do this one as a last example. Back shortly. Okay, getting ready for this race at Hamilton. It's a 6 furlong handicap. As you saw in the last video, sprint races, generally speaking, are not particularly suited to this technique, simply because you have very little time to get out if you need to get out. But it's worthwhile doing it here just to let you see what happens, and that gives you an overview of sprints, middle distance races, and anything over 2 miles. Okay, so I'm just waiting for the race to start, and same principle, we'll do all of these for about 30 seconds. Stop trading around about 30 seconds, 35 seconds. I'll give it another 10 seconds or so to clear any lays that may still be sitting in the market, and then one would get out. It looks like they're going to struggle for a wee while to get all this in, so let me just pause the video again, and we'll get going just as the race starts. Okay, we've just started, so in we go. On a field this size, of course, it's going to take you half a minute to put them all in. So we may actually only get 2 rounds of bets being placed here, maybe even less than that by the time they all clear. So yeah, we're actually halfway through the race. I can't afford to go back in again, and that's of course the nature of sprints. They're over so quickly. But we'll give it another few seconds to see if it clears. The one that's the issue is Salvatore Fury. All 3 bets have been taken. Which one is it? Can't see it in the list there, but there it's been cleared out. And there we are, we've got a profit of £1, give or take. So there you go. Same principle as before, but all we're doing here is we are spreading the overall liability over 3 different odds. And as I mentioned earlier, you may find if you have software that provides extra columns in the grid, you could perhaps do the lowest 3, for example, or indeed the lowest 2. It's up to yourself. The same principle applies here. Rather than splitting your overall liability into 3, split it into 2 and just do these 2. It's up to you. There's lots of options. Play around, see what you're most comfortable with, see what you find to be the most successful, and stick with it. Okay, thanks very much. Speak to you again.